welcome back to another edition of Chats from the Blog Cabin. Today I'm joined by, I'm very honored that Austin agreed to join me today because he's one of those soccer players. If you followed my blog, you know he's the one that I followed all the time. Even though he's retired now, I still follow him. And he has such a great organization that he founded called Playing for Pride. So before we get into that, Austin, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hi. Like Melissa said, I'm Austin da Luz. Grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Been a professional soccer player for the last 10 years. Spent the better part of the last 8 years playing here in Raleigh for the Carolina Railhawks and now North Carolina FC. And just retired at the end of this past season. So trying to navigate that transition into the real world. That's about it. That's me.
Yeah. So tell us about your organization, Playing for Pride, and how it's helping with the LGBTQ community. I had to write it down because I always leave out one letter, and I didn't want to leave out a letter.
That's okay. So I started Playing for Pride a few years back, kind of in response to the controversy surrounding HB2 or House Bill 2. Which was some, discriminatory legislation that then Governor Pat McCrory passed, and really sort of put North Carolina in the center of this, controversy surrounding the bill, and in my opinion, cast North Carolina in a very negative light. And as somebody who grew up here in North Carolina and I'm very proud of being from here, I just wanted to find a tangible way to push back against that perception. So I decided to sort of combine one thing I know very well, which is playing soccer, with something that I didn't know much about at the time, which was fundraising. And just on a bit of a whim, started this campaign where, professional soccer players would donate a certain amount of money for every game that they play, for every goal that they score, for every assist that they make, that kind of thing. So every game they're donating money and asking fans and supporters to match those donations. And so, that's kind of how we got the ball rolling. And our first year was fairly successful. We mobilized around 40 professional soccer players from all over the world to participate, and ended up raising around $14,000 for the Human Rights Campaign, which is a big LGBTQ advocacy organization, very recognizable organization across the country. And after that first year is when things really took off, and I actually partnered with an organization called Athlete Ally, who's an established nonprofit that sort of works at the intersection of LGBTQ rights and sports. They work specifically to try to make sports more inclusive for LGBTQ people. So it was really a perfect partner for me. Like I said, things just took off from there. We had participation kind of skyrocket, and in 2017, or in 2018 and 2019, we had around 125 players participate. And in total, over the course of those two campaigns, we raised about $48,000 for Athlete Ally. It's been really successful, mostly due to the participation of my fellow athletes and the support that I've gotten from the soccer community, not just in, financial donations, but in creating awareness and having people just speak out in support of the LGBTQ community is something that I'm really proud of.
So when did you originally start this program? What year?
So the first year of the campaign was 2017. So the law HB2 passed in 2016, and like I said, it sort of started this cycle of negativity that was kind of focused on North Carolina, and the law did eventually get repealed, but I still felt that it was important to again try to make a tangible, create some tangible impact surrounding this issue, and specifically in soccer and in sports where the masculinity, hyper masculinity, and all that stuff can create environments that are not always welcoming for LGBTQ people. So, yeah, I started in 2017, and like I said, kind of took off from there.
So how has COVID-19 caused it to pivot a little bit?
It's been interesting. I think like a lot of things we've had to adapt. So with no sports being played at the moment, we've kind of asked players to, get creative and find ways to continue to, send that message of acceptance and inclusivity, despite not being on the field. So we have a lot of players speaking out, posting on social media, still declaring support for the LGBTQ community. And in terms of fundraising, people again have gotten creative. They're doing auctions, auctioning off jerseys and stuff like that, and asking people to donate for a chance to win those jerseys. But yeah, I think there's a larger conversation happening now around racial justice, and so we wanted to recognize the importance of that conversation and that it is sort of taking precedent at the moment. So 50% of everything that we raise with Playing for Pride will go to the Audre Lorde Project, which is an organization out of New York City that works specifically with people of color in the LGBTQ community. So I think that intersectional nature of racial justice is so important to recognize at the moment. So, asking a lot of our players to speak out about that has been really important as well.
Yeah, because you're a very strong advocate about human rights, period, regardless. Especially if anybody follows you on Twitter, you can see you're very active on Twitter and how you use your social media for good. And you don't see a lot of that nowadays with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it a little bit more. I think people are starting to understand the power that they have in using their voice, especially professional athletes, I think, are so uniquely positioned to speak to people from all across the political spectrum in a way that not many people in American life are. And I think more and more athletes are accepting that responsibility and using it to put forth powerful messages of unity, but not just of unity, of justice, and making sure that we attack these issues in a very specific way. I think it's important to acknowledge where we've been and why these issues are still so prevalent in our society. And instead of just sort of sending that message of unity, which is important, and I think we all are in this together to a certain extent, but I think a lot of people do have a tendency to want to sort of skip to the end, right, and skip to the hug and skip to the feel good parts without actually doing the work of acknowledging why we are where we are. So like I said, I think more and more people and more athletes are recognizing the power that they have and the need for their voices in this conversation.
Have you always been like this growing up, or it's something that you recently come into?
No, I don't think I was always like this. I think it's something that gradually over time, the more I learned, the more educated I became about it, the more difficult it was to stay quiet. And I think that's the case with most people. I think people that don't want to acknowledge the issues and don't want to take a strong, hard look in the mirror about the part that they play in these issues are the ones that, are more likely to stay silent. But I found, and I think a lot of people are finding right now, that the more that you delve into them and the more that you learn, it's very hard not to speak up about them. So I think for me, my journey in social justice started with the Ferguson riots. I remember sitting up and watching those and just being blown away that was the country that we were living in. And looking back at that now, I think it was very naive of me to even be shocked at that point, because these are issues that people have been facing for so long. So yeah, that was when I think my journey started a little bit in terms of educating myself and continuing to dig deeper into these issues, both, surrounding racial justice and justice for the LGBTQ community, whatever it is. I think that's kind of where it started for me. And yeah, I think right now, again, we're seeing so many people have that same experience, right? That maybe they haven't had in the past, where they're seeing these, this movement really take hold, and it's waking a lot of people up. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. The last couple of lives I've done, I did a panel with women on race, and I had women of all nationality and all ethnicities. And then I did a panel with men on race, and that's when Julius was on, one of your former players. So I got to give him a shout
Julius.
out. Yeah. Julius said he loves you too, by the way. When I texted him and told him, I said, hey, Austin's going to be on as well. He's like, oh, good. But, for you to use your platform, did you get any pushback at all? I know you had to have gotten some pushback from it.
Yeah, I think not as much as you would think. I think there's when you put yourself out there on social media, I think you can always expect a level of pushback and negativity to come. But I don't think I ever got anything that really felt substantial or meaningful in the way of pushback. It always sort of felt like it was coming from, trolls that sort of spend most of their time doing that kind of thing. So for the most part, I try to ignore it. And I only ever really engage with negative feedback or pushback when I feel like I can make a larger point using that negative feedback. I think you could spend all day or all your life engaging with that type of stuff on social media and never really get anywhere. I think it's very difficult when you start to get wrapped up in that type of stuff. So the only time I ever really acknowledge the negative feedback is when I feel like I can use it to teach and to make a broader point about the issues that are being discussed.
Now, one of the questions I had on the male race panel was, how do you talk to people that are like ignorant, that don't want to hear your point? What do you say? Because those are kind of like the trolls, right?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, I don't try to reach those people. If people aren't approaching the conversation in good faith, with a clear desire to actually engage and have a two-way conversation, I don't waste time or energy engaging with people like that. I think that's how you drive yourself crazy. And I think, like I said, there's just so much of that out there on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, wherever you spend your time, that if you do begin to try to answer every single one of those, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you should save your time and energy for the people that you feel like maybe you really can move. If you feel like you have an opportunity to change hearts and minds, then by all means put forth your energy into those types of conversations. But yeah, as far as people who have no real interest in engaging or having a conversation, I would just hit the block and move on with your day.
Has there ever been a conversation that's just stuck in your mind where someone has an aha moment as they're talking to you, when they're realizing that you had a point and that your point is right?
I'm not sure. I think not that I can recall, because I think that people are very reticent to admit those aha moments. I would hope that people have had them in response to playing for Pride and in response to so many players speaking out. But I don't think I've ever had anyone say like, oh, you know what, you're actually right, and my viewpoint has changed, like in the moment. I think that's very rare. I think it's a gradual process for a lot of people. I think people, like I said, the more that you learn and the more that you take in, that's kind of how that process happens. It's never really like a one moment, like, oh my gosh, I've been so dumb. People don't naturally do that. So I think that the work that we've done over time has absolutely made a difference. I have no doubt about that.
Is there a reason behind the reason why you went to support the LGBTQ community, or was it just something you picked? Or
yeah, so I think again, the negativity that HB2 created in our state was it just struck such a personal chord with me, being from here, and my older brother is a gay man, so that was obviously something that was very personal to me. yeah, I think I felt a certain level of comfortability talking about these issues, and I know that not everyone does. So I wanted to use that comfortability that I have talking about them again to try to create a little bit of change, right? So people, I think, are more effective when they're comfortable talking about whatever issues they're attacking. And this was just something that I had a little bit of experience learning about and speaking about. So I just wanted to take that a little bit further.
So to kind of throw a little bit more support your brother's way to show that you're totally 100% behind him, even more so, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that's something he ever doubted. And I
Yeah.
think I've always been hesitant to use that as justification for starting the campaign, because I don't think that's what it should take for people to get involved. You shouldn't have to. It shouldn't have to feel that personal, right? You should want to, better humanity and get involved and create impact. Whether or not you have family members that are affected by these things. So I don't want to lay it all at the feet of my older brother. I would like to think that I would have, done this otherwise.
You just kind of had more of an insight of how to go about to do it. So maybe he played a part in just your plan to do it, not you actually doing it, but like the way devising the plan to get it so that you can reach everybody. You think
Yeah. I think, it was, my relationship with him was valuable in that I saw his journey up close, right? And I had a good understanding of what members of the LGBTQ community go through in dealing with hiding their identity and living their lives, behind this veil of whatever society deems acceptable. And so in that sense, it was good for me to see that and good for me to know those things. And it made it easier for me to advocate. But yeah, again, I don't think anybody needs that personal of a connection to create impact.
That's true. But a lot of people think, why should we care about them? They're going against God's law. And actually the Bible says to love everybody. So I just, for me, coming from a teacher point of view, I would see the kids who had same-sex parents come in and they would be torn apart. The kids would, because they had two moms or two dads, and it would just tear my heart up because, they can't help it, that they have parents of the same sex. It's just like my girls can't help it that their dad's Mexican and their mom's white. Why take it out on the kids, And so I feel like that's my platform, is to use that. And I actually wrote a blog post about you a while back when you first started playing for Pride, and you actually interviewed with me for that, and you interviewed me for several other things too. But and I appreciate you doing that, being willing to talk about it, because that's how I learn as well. Because when we have these necessary, sometimes they're uncomfortable conversations, but they're necessary conversations to learn. So what would you say to people right now about that?
Yeah, I think the Christian angle comes up a lot. I think people often feel torn by their faith when it comes to these issues. They feel like maybe they're going against God or whatever it may be. And I always come back to a quote from the Reverend Dr. William Barbara, who's been a very strong progressive voice here in North Carolina for a long time and been heavily involved in the church, obviously. And what he always says in response to people who claim to be Christians and who attack the LGBTQ community, he always says they're saying so much about what God says so little, and so little about what God says so much. And that always just rung very true to me. I'm not a religious person. I'm not, steeped in the education that a lot of Christians are throughout their upbringing. But from what I do understand is God loves everyone. And so that's the message that I try to convey whenever I get into these types of conversations, and hopefully, people will do their own homework and come to the same conclusion. Again, you can't force anybody into these types of things. You just have to keep doing the work and hope that progress is made. But yeah, that quote is just something I've always come back to. It's, when people want to point to scripture and point to certain quotes or whatever, this and that, it's just, I like to say, take a step back and what is the message? What is the message that you're getting? And what is the message that you want to put forth to the world? So it's hard. Those aren't always comfortable conversations to have, right? It's not stuff that people like to talk about all the time. People don't like to be challenged on their views or on their beliefs. But at the end of the day, if you're not challenging yourself, then you're sitting in a place of comfort and privilege. And I think that's how these problems are perpetuated, when people don't challenge their own beliefs and don't look in the mirror and see how their own beliefs are affecting other people.
That's true. And actually, Reverend Barbara's church is just right down the road from my house. It's like maybe 3 or 4 miles down from my house. So he's from Goldsboro. So
yeah, he's incredible. He was a huge inspiration for Playing for Pride. I think his activism, the Moral Monday movement that he created over the last few years, was hugely influential on me. So he's just somebody that I look up to immensely.
He actually just did a special with Oprah.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
like, man, I haven't actually sat down and watched it yet, but I was like, man, he's on with Oprah. Man, he's going places.
Yeah, I think anybody who's looking to sort of begin their journey in educating themselves about these issues of racial justice and social justice, I would highly recommend just get on YouTube and watch him speak. I think it will truly move you. It will change you. I think that's a great place to start for a lot of people.
I know that his church actually brought Mayor Pete and Bernie Sanders both into Goldsboro to speak at his church about poverty. So
yeah, that's great. It's great. And I think the thing that I love most about the Reverend is that when he does bring people in like that, he doesn't throw them softballs. He's there to challenge people and to make sure that our elected officials are being held accountable and are moving in a progressive way. Again, he's not one for comfortable conversations. He's constantly challenging people. He's constantly challenging people's ideas of what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be a Black man, what it means to be an ally, a progressive, all of these things. He's constantly challenging people to just be better.
Do you think he'll run for political office one day, or do you know?
I can't even look that far down the road. Coming out of a 10-year career and trying to navigate that transition in the midst of a global health and economic crisis has been difficult enough. I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to any public office.
Okay, I do have a kind of question. I heard you were stopped on the streets of, what was it, Cary one day?
By your husband?
Yeah.
No, so yeah, it was in Raleigh. It was actually right around the corner from where I live. Yeah, it was good to see him. It had been a while.
Yeah, he cracked me up. He's like, I saw him walking his dog, and I turned my truck around to go talk to him. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it took me a second to recognize him. I had it clicked into place, and I was like, "Oh, hey!" But it was awesome to see him.
It was literally he literally turned around just to talk to you because he was supposed to be going the other way. So
yeah, we had a nice little chat. We were like I said, it's great to see him. It's hard. I think when you retire, one of the things that doesn't cross your mind right away is that you're not going to see a lot of the fans and supporters that you've created connections with over the years. So anytime I get to see, people like your husband or any supporters out in the community, it's so cool because that's just not it's hard to maintain that connection once the ball stops rolling.
Yeah, that's so true. And I will say that you're the only one, other than the male members of my family, that have the privilege of having part of this blog cabin. You're actually the only one in the ceiling too, Austin.
I'm honored.
I actually had people write messages. Some people actually came down and wrote messages in the wall to kind of positive messages to give off positive vibes. And I asked Austin to write a letter, and he actually sent it to me, which I was really shocked that you actually agreed to it, but then I shouldn't have been shocked. But my husband had already closed up the walls when I got it. So I was like, okay, he's going in the ceiling. So you're in the ceiling right by the door. So when I walk in, you're right there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm honored. And I'm so happy that you've to watch your blog grow over the years has been such an incredible thing. It's awesome.
And actually, you were actually the first one that I actually stepped out of my comfort zone to ask to interview, because you were the one, like I said in the very beginning when I showed the pictures, like back in 2011, 2012, was like you were on the sidelines warming up. I think it's because my mother-in-law's name is Maria de la Luz. So I think that's where the connection got me, because I was like, oh, he's Hispanic. Let me start watching him play.
Yeah, we always had the Mexican connection.
Yep. And so from that point on, watching you, and then actually when you came back, I think it was when you came back from Orlando, I asked you if I could interview you. You were like, absolutely. And it was like course of emails back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because every time you would say something, I would ask you a question back. So I really appreciate you for doing that for me, actually.
No, it's my pleasure. Obviously, it's something I love doing. And I think, like I said, and like, having, these types of conversations is so important. And I keep referencing it, but I think people are starting to realize that more and more now, that we need to step outside of our comfort zones, and we need to attack topics that maybe we haven't delved into before. So I'm always happy to talk. I'm always happy to talk about anything. Not a shy person, as you alluded to. I don't hold back on social media. But yeah, it's always a pleasure. So I really appreciate you just giving me the opportunity.
I appreciate you coming on. Now, what's up next for you? Because I know you got some big stuff coming up, don't you?
I do. Yes, I've been putting together baby items over the last couple months, so I'm very handy at the moment. We have a little one arriving in approximately 8 weeks. Well, who knows when he will actually make his appearance. But yeah, real life has begun. The soccer dream has ended, and we're moving on to another dream, fatherhood dream.
And that's just when it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a blessing when they're little, but then when someone hurts them or they're sick and you can't help them, that's a curse. But when they hit teenagers, well, at least you'll have a boy, so it won't be that bad. I'm telling you, 3 girls, and I had 2 of them teenagers at the same time. I would never do that again.
That's brutal. That's a grind. Yeah, I'm very excited. My wife is very excited, and yeah, I'm just I'm not sure. People keep asking me if I'm ready, and my answer is always absolutely not. I think it's very difficult to be ready for something like this, but I'm also confident in our ability to figure it out as we go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys both have great role models with your parents and her parents. Am I correct?
You are correct. Yes, both our parents have been together for upwards of 30 years. So we've got about as good a set of role models as you could ask for. Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're happy to have our families close as well. My family's in Winston-Salem, and my wife's family's here in Raleigh. So we've got a really good support system. So
what's up with you on the job market, though? Because you said trying to navigate that at the beginning when you introduced yourself.
Yeah, it's been a learning experience for sure. As soon as I retired, I was very perhaps too casual about the whole thing. I thought I would take a couple months to just decompress and then start looking and find something that I was really interested in, and that everything got turned upside down when the virus started. So yeah, it's been crazy. I've been in a lot of interview processes that have sort of abruptly ended because of the virus, and obviously now the job market is flooded with people that are also looking for jobs that are much more experienced than I am. But having said all that, I got very lucky and accepted a job this past week at a software company here in Raleigh. So I'll be doing that for the time being, and pumped to do that, and pumped to learn as much as I can, and like I said, start this new journey.
Now, when it's USL now, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. They change all over the place. When they go back, will you still be doing the broadcast for the NCFC?
I hope so. That's the plan. I haven't been told otherwise. I know that they're still working out the schedule. There's tentative plans to come back. I believe July 11th was the date that the league set. And the league just agreed with the players on a sort of return to play agreement. So yeah, as far as I know, I'll be back in the booth with Dean Linke and really excited to sort of stay involved with the game that way. And yeah, if I didn't have that, I would be a little bit more upset about walking away. I think it's, being involved in broadcast has been a really good way for me to maintain that connection with the club and with the community.
What did it mean to you to walk away from it? What made you finally decide to walk away from it?
I don't think there's, one thing I can point to. I think it just felt like it was time. It had been 10 years. It's difficult on the body. It's difficult on the mind. Travel became a little bit more of a grind. Yeah, I think I was just really looking forward to, again, getting this next phase of my life started, starting a family, being around on weekends for various family events. So yeah, I think it was just a combination of a lot of different things, and ultimately just led to a gut feeling that it was a good time to step away.
I know. I honestly, that last season when you played, I didn't attend any games, but I made sure. I even had sponsorship to attend your last game. I'm like, I'm going to be there. And then they took forever. And I'm like, oh, man, is he going to come over? Is he going to? Because I said, I got it. This all depends on – a picture depends on this whole article. And I'm like, oh, man, it was like when I read about Omar Bravo coming, and I read about motor oil, and I turned it into an NCFC. Was it NCFC at the time? Or was it?
I think it was still Railhawks at the time when Omar came.
And turned it into how the oil in the car took us to do special moments like that for my husband to go see a Chiva player, And so, but I didn't think we were going to ever get that picture either. So I'm like, why do I put myself into where I need a picture for an article,
Yeah, that last game, it was very emotional, and I wanted to get to every single person that had stayed and wanted to spend time with me. I wanted to make sure that, again, people feel that connection and people know how grateful I am for all the support over the years. So if I took a little bit too long, I'm sorry, but I'm glad that we did eventually get our picture and our moment.
Yeah. Honestly, though, you're still my favorite. I've actually kind of won some of the girls over on you, but there's still one holdout. Can you guess which one's the holdout?
Someday I'll win her over. Someday.
Well, you quit playing now, so how are you going to win her over that time?
I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I'll figure something out.
Can you guess which one it is, though?
I can't. I thought they all like me.
There's one that hasn't quite won you over. No, you haven't won over yet. And it's because I like you so much. But
she's skeptical.
I will give you a hint. She trained with Nas. That tells you.
Oh, well then, if she trained with Nas, then she's a lost cause.
Now, Nas is also entered into the parenting thing. So are you watching him with the parenting and seeing how he's navigating it, or? Yeah,
for sure. He we still talk every day or so. We're texting, and yeah, he's had fun. He's really enjoying it, and we're in similar situations. He has family close as well that is super supportive. But yeah, I'm getting the whole rundown from him. He gave me a bunch of diapers, which was very nice.
Ooh. Yeah.
That his son had grown out of already. So we got a head start in the diaper department thanks to Nas.
Yeah, definitely get diapers and wipes. That's probably, forget about anything else. Really, diapers and wipes are like the main thing because they'll run through diapers. And always get a burp cloth, one of those cloths. So when you're changing the diaper, put it over the top of it so you don't get peed on.
Oh, that's smart. Yes.
And definitely don't open your mouth when you're changing a diaper.
Maybe I'll just wear a mask.
There you go.
Face covers that the people at the grocery store are wearing. I'll just start wearing one of those.
Yeah, I've never had that happen because, of course, I had girls, but my sister had boys, and it happened to her one time, and she said she had to learn one time, and that was it. She was like, okay, now I know the tricks.
I'll write that one down.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to share?
No, I don't think so. Again, I really appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to talk about this. And I hope that people feel a little bit more comfortable talking about these issues, whether it's LGBTQ issues or racial justice, whatever it is. Just know that, everyone is starting from the same place, right? We all have to educate ourselves and we all have to learn. So if your excuse is that you don't know enough, then go learn more. That's all it takes is really just that decision to begin learning. And I think people hear the word activism and they get very intimidated and they think, oh, I'm not an activist. But all it takes to be an activist is to act, and learning is an act. So I hope that people feel more comfortable surrounding these issues, and I hope that people will go out and continue to, speak with their circles and their social circles. I think the biggest thing for me when I started playing for Pride was I was shocked at how willing people were to help when given the opportunity, right? So I think a lot of people want to help, they want to get involved, and they don't always know how. So giving people an opportunity and creating a door for people to walk through can be a really powerful thing. So if you do feel a little bit more comfortable around these issues and you feel like you have learned enough, I would encourage you to create that doorway for other people to walk through in the same way that you did. So yeah, that would kind of be my closing message. And obviously would love for people to donate to Playing for Pride, which you can do if you go to @PlayingForPride on Twitter. Oh yeah, I see you threw the link up there at the bottom. But yeah, if you go to @PlayingForPride on Twitter or on Instagram, you can get the link to the donation page there. And hopefully people will do that. Check it out. Check out the cause. Check out the players that are involved. And if that's not one for you, go find something else to get involved in. Just do something. Don't do nothing.
Yeah, that's true. And have a conversation with someone that's different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sit down and have a conversation with someone in the LGBTQ community. See, I got tongue tied there. Community, to sit down and see what their life is really like, because then you realize it's not really that much different than ours.
No, not at all. They're people. And that's, at the end of the day, I think that's the message that trying to convey to everyone is spreading that humanity, just making sure people understand that we're dealing with human beings. These are people that are facing discrimination and injustice based on no faults of their own. That's just the way, the way they are, the people that they are. And facing discrimination and injustice based on who you are is not acceptable, no matter what your reasoning or justification might be. It's just not acceptable. So yes, having conversations and understanding those differences and not ignoring them or not acknowledging them isn't the answer, but acknowledging the differences and accepting them, I think is the key.
Now, I will have a question I just thought about. One of my daughters has a lot of gay friends that are in the Asian community and some that are in the Spanish and Hispanic community. And they're very hard for them to come out to their parents, because they've come out to their friends, but not their parents, because of that stigma that that culture has. Now, I know you're part Hispanic, so was there a stigma there, or?
Not with my immediate family. No, I think my parents have always been incredibly supportive of my brother, and I think when he did come out, it was just messages of love and support, and so that stigma didn't exist really in my immediate family. But I think I do understand when people deal with that. I think it's incredibly difficult, and I think that's why more and more people, in their social circles or wherever it may be, need to show support and be vocal about it, right? It's not enough to just have it in your head that you accept everyone, that you believe in equality. This is where saying it out loud comes into play. When people feel like they can't be themselves to their own families, they those are the types of people that need that vocal support. So whether or not you feel like you can make a difference, I can almost guarantee that you are. When you speak up and when you're vocal, people who need to hear it, hear it. And I think that's sort of the power of Playing for Pride, is having so many professional athletes in communities all across the country saying these things out loud, so that members of the LGBTQ community can hear them, and hear that support when they might not be getting it from home, might not be getting it from their social circles. They can get it from people that they look up to. And I think that means a lot. And it means a lot all the way down from professional athletes all the way to, people in your day-to-day life. Just small things like that can really change how people live their lives.
That's true, because some of the ones that we brought to the soccer games, some of the guys and girls have come out to our daughters and us, but not to everyone else, especially not to their parents. And I just feel for their parents, and I feel for the kids, because you want your parents, you want them to be proud of you, and you want them to be accepting of you. And when they got to hide part of themselves, it's hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine. If you can't be yourself around your own family, you can never really be yourself. I would imagine that it's just a cloud constantly hanging over you. And so, yeah, I think it's just a gradual process, right? The fact that your daughter has friends that feel comfortable being themselves around you, whereas before they might not have had anyone that they could be themselves around. So giving people that outlet and creating that space for people to be themselves is huge, because it may be that in-between step, where they first come out to you and their friends, and then eventually work up the courage or whatever it takes to create that bridge to their families as well. So again, it's just a constant process, and all you can do is create that space where people feel safe and comfortable being themselves. It's so important.
Yes, I want to thank you for being on. And actually, before we end this broadcast, I want you to hang on after I end it, because I want to give you the tour of the blog cabin since you haven't seen it. So most people actually just jump off. So I want to make sure you don't jump off so you can see the whole thing. So
let's do it.
I really want to thank you so much for joining me and agreeing to do it too. I know there was a couple of days where back and forth, because I've been booked. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is I never thought.
Yeah, it's great.
About this. So
it's awesome. Yeah. And I know that I'm not always the easiest to track down. I've got like I said, a little bit going on right now, but I'm always happy to connect and again, have conversations like this. I think are super important. So thank you for giving me the platform, and hopefully your viewers and listeners get something out of it.
Yeah, because I actually turned these into YouTube. So if you want to share on YouTube and to a podcast as well. So
awesome.
So reach more listeners that way. So I want to thank you
absolutely,
again, Austin, for joining. You can follow Playing for Pride on Twitter at Playing for Pride, or on Instagram at Playing for Pride. Also, you can follow Austin and learn how really he is really into social injustice on Twitter at Austin da Luz. And then I'm going to actually put in the show notes the Playing for Pride link where you can donate. And that runs until when, Austin?
So the campaign officially is in the month of June, which is Pride Month, obviously. But we usually keep the fundraising aspect open a little bit longer, just to give people time to get those donations in and to spread as much love as we can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Austin.
Thank you.
Guys, have a great rest of your day. See you back soon.